the real transformative thinker is not the person that comes up with the idea, but the first person who follows it. Technology has to be a tool and not the end itself. It's like, well, is it that you can't, or you just don't know how yet? We all need to succeed together, or none of us will succeed at all.
What are those programs, activities, focus areas that you're working on for the near future? Hello everybody, my name is Tony Selvaggio. Welcome to E-Revolutionary, the podcast. Just so you know, all of the podcast is produced with used and refurbished technology. So it's a sustainable podcast. And today we have the amazing Terri Willingham, who is the force behind democratizing innovation. Through FCDI and AMROC Fab Lab, she actually creates hands-on opportunities for everybody in the community to build, to invent, to dream big. And if anybody is putting hands-on, figuring out how to create and make revolutionary ideas happen, is Terri Willingham. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. That's a lot of accolades to live up to, but thank you so much.
Listen, you were one of the first friends that I made here in this amazing community. I will always remember how you have played a role in our journey, and I've always been fascinated about what you've been building. So tell us more about this amazing thing that you've been building for so long.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I'm not building it alone. My husband Steve Willingham and I co-founded AMROC Fab Lab, which is the Advanced Manufacturing Robotics Center Fab Lab. It's one of 4 programs that we have at the Foundation for Community-Driven Innovation, and the others are 2 showcase events, Roboticon and Gulf Coast MakerCon, which we can talk a little bit more about later, and equity and entrepreneurship, through which we've been trying to bridge the race and gender equity gap for the last 4 or 5 years, with early stage entrepreneurship support. And then AMROC is a 4th one, and then within that we do competitive robotics and all sorts of things. And we came around to building that because we found how transformative youth robotics was for our son. So we have 3 children, and our baby Chris just turned 33 this week.
Time flies, my friend.
Yeah, my gosh. And so he had been in robotics when he was 13 years old, and was trying to find his way and find what he likes to do. And he loved coding. He really took to coding. And back in the day, there weren't a lot of opportunities to do a lot with that, and so robotics was a really good start. And then he found 4 or 5 friends, and they started the team together. That team is still in operation. It's Team Duct Tape. It's a First Tech Challenge team. It's 18 years old this year.
It's pretty well known too.
Yeah, it's a really good team. And now it's a community-based team at AMROC Fab Lab. And as we worked with the students on this, the robots are a vehicle for personal development, right? Character development, problem solving, the entrepreneurial mindset, right? It's just a vehicle, a productive vehicle for productive struggle, so that the students are using this opportunity of building a robot to develop all these other skills, teamwork, communications, all of that. And but as you go on in some of these things, you find, well, I need some tools, I need some resources, I need an engineer, I need somebody who, Steve is an electrical engineer who was working full-time at the time, and could only help sometimes. And so, as you start to add in all these things that would be really helpful, before you know it, you've come around to the idea of we need our own lab, right? So we can do all these other companion things.
Well, you come to that conclusion when you're trying to really execute
something bigger.
Right, when you have an idea and you start to figure it out how to make it a reality.
Right, and we couldn't do it without people who also saw the power of that vision, right? Mm-hmm. And so, our founding board members, and you were a board member for a while, and we've got amazing board members, and everybody's like really engaged, and they helped push forward those ideas. They helped support it. And then all the great partners that we work with. None of this stuff, the village trope can be overused, but it's true, we can't build good things unless we build together. And the Fab Lab opportunity was something Steve and I had been working for a while as consultants to counties and developing maker spaces in public places. Mm-hmm. And so I've written 2 books on maker spaces in libraries. We ended up working with libraries for a few years because that seemed the most logical way to democratize access to tools and resources, right?
Well, and even though it might sound common sense,
Yeah.
how do you define a maker space?
Right, and so a maker space is a place where you can go in and create, right? And all the tools and resources you need to create the things you want to create are there. Whether it's arts, whether it's 3D printing, whether it's products and services and ideas, hobbies, right? You want to have access. You want hand tools, things you may not have if you're in an apartment. You don't have a garage. Your access to those resources to be creative and to upskill and to find personal agency may be limited. And so putting them in these public places seem like an affordable, accessible way to do that.
Right.
And it is. So we designed the Hive makerspace at John F. Germany Library, which is the flagship library of the Hillsborough County Library System. And that was a 10,000 square feet of minimally used space on the third floor of the annex building, which is no longer there, unfortunately. But it was a great trial, right? You need people who will look at an idea you bring to them and go, let's try that. And the library said, yeah, let's do this on this 10,000 square feet of space on the third floor of the library. Right. And there was an old TEDx and an old TED Talk. We bonded through TED when we used to do the TED programs. But there was an old video where it says the real transformative thinker is not the person that comes up with the idea, but the first person who follows it, right? And it's a great video, and very short, it's very sweet. And that idea is like, it's great to have a good idea, but if nobody buys into that idea, it's not going to go anywhere, right? You really need people to develop
early
it.
adopters, your
exactly.
First generation of supporters.
Exactly, and the library was absolutely phenomenal, and they put in a recording studio, and they put in a little, machine shop or minimal machine shop, and so that's how we sort of came to embrace this idea of these public creative spaces, the third place where people can go. It's not school, it's not work, it's not home, right? It's this third place that provides you a creative, welcoming, safe, secure space, to think and develop ideas and develop yourself.
It's such an interesting concept because not only does a person need to understand that they have something in here that they need to make, like you said, whatever that is, but you also have to make the education available so they know that there are places in the community that will actually foster that seed of the idea and turn it into a reality.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and
that's what you're creating.
Yeah, but again, you need all those people who come with all those skills, right? We can create the space. We can't always create the programming, right? Like we have people who come in and they say, I want to learn how to use a laser cutter. That's great. I think the laser cutter is the coolest thing in the world. I cannot run the laser cutter. Right. We have Vicky, right? So we have this, our operations director who just like showed up and was looking for a place to, use these skills she had coming from a fab lab in Miami. And so as people came in with these questions, I want to be able to do this, I want to sew, we found people who had these skills, right, who wanted to share them, because I think you'll find the people, and I think the people who are most passionate about the things they do want to share it, right? They want to have that community, build up that community around other people who sew and laser cut and 3D print, and love, creating safe, secure environments and want our water to be clean. You find all these people, and they're drawn to the spaces and to the things that you do, and they help make it happen. And that's pretty much how the Fab Lab has developed over the last 6 years since we put it in.
I love it. I think it's an amazing concept, and you use the term community driven a lot. Yeah. Even when you're describing your model, is one of those things where we know this is needed, we're going to bring it and make it accessible, and then we're going to let the community sort of incubate that idea and help us develop it into what it should be developed.
Right. Yeah.
How has that community-driven why is that so important for you?
Community has always been important to me. I was raised by committee. Right. I was actually raised by an elderly aunt when my family couldn't take care of me for various reasons, and so I was sent. When I'm a Cuban kid, I was sent from Miami to New Jersey. I only spoke Spanish. And they took me in, and now I only speak English, so it's a flip. But they were absolutely phenomenal, and everybody who was taking care of me were elderly, and it was a very strong rural community in New Jersey where I was being raised, and it was essentially a community, right? A community of people who were raising this kid, and that was a powerful experience for me. And then I would go back and forth between Miami and New Jersey, and that whole idea that we need groups, right? We need people who care for other people. Was it Mr. Rogers, Find the Helpers, right?
Yeah.
And, that, I think now more than ever, the solace and the comfort and the security of having people who care for other people is extraordinarily important. When I'm at Amrock and the kids are all there and they're having a great time and they're perfectly at home, that to me is like the most enriching, powerful thing. And it could be there's a selfish component to creating something like this where I go in and I am immediately comforted by the comfort of the other people in the space, right? And we need more of that in an age where we have more connectivity than ever. We're more disconnected than ever, and the irony of that isn't lost on me or a lot of other people. When we seek comfort in our technology over one another, that's not necessarily, a healthy thing for us to do. Technology has to be a tool and not the end itself.
Right.
And so having a space where people can learn that together in a safe environment, I think is really important. And the more community you pull in behind it, the better the overall community becomes, right? The whole idea of having a space where people can come and work together creates sort of this self-reliance, right? This people who can take care of each other. And I think at the heart of it, even though it's kind of a tech space, it's not really a tech space. It's a personal community building space.
This podcast is produced with full refurbished technology, secondhand technology, bringing it back to life. You can't really fake that.
No.
You can't read on a textbook. You have to build community in what you're creating.
Right.
This is how to do it. If the person is not fully aligned with that, I think it's very, very difficult to create from nothing.
Right, it is. And you'll come across people who are in it for different reasons, right? Who are, we have no shortage of people trying to sell us products, right? Or an idea or something, and our question is always, what is that new thing solving, right? What problem is it solving? That's always Steve's favorite thing. What problem is that solving?
Yeah.
To understand, do we need to bring this thing in, or is it going to help move us forward in the direction we want to go?
Steve is pretty awesome. Huge shout out to Steve as well. The opportunity that you have, the opportunity that we all have is also, like you said, to a greater or lesser degree limited by the mindset of the ecosystem as well. And one of the things that I know that we both, to a greater or lesser degree, struggle with is very obvious realities that for us are obvious, but for the rest of the people might not be obvious. One of the quotes that I always like to reference, which is a grounding quote for me and what got me started in my business, was from Gordon Brown. Gordon Brown, former Prime Minister of the UK and head of the Education Commission back in 2014, which is kind of where we met, was saying that one of society's unspoken or hidden threats, the fact that by 2030 we would have about 1 million adults with no particular skill whatsoever to perform the activities that our society was going to need. So it was not necessarily we're not going to have people, is we're going to have people, but technology is advancing so fast that we have a lot of people that could be primed to work and to help us develop this economic power, and they won't be able to do it because they're not properly trained.
Yeah, and I think that's always been a concern for a number of reasons. Not just the job reason, not just the being able to fill these roles that we were talking earlier about, Ford has mentioned there are going to be 5,000 technicians short. That's just Ford, right? There aren't automotive technicians, so that's one of the programs we're adding to what we do. But the thing that comes with having skills and having a variety of skills, the personal thing you get out of that is as important as the economic thing you get out of that, right? And the more skills you have, the more capable you are, the more satisfied you are, the more sentient you are, resourceful, right. Self-reliant. Being able to do things is empowering, right? The more things you can do, the more things you know how to do, the more things you tend to want to be able to do, right? And so that curiosity, that awe, that wonder, that interest, that innate human interest in, I want to know how to do this, right? I want to know how to create this. I want to know how to use this tool. That just makes us better people, right? Tools built human society. When we don't know how to use basic tools, and we get students that come from, I'm talking college students who are in electrical or manufacturing or mechanical engineering, and they've never soldered, right? Because everything's theoretical. We get kids coming out of high school because a lot of things are theoretical and they don't have hands-on. Without that hands-on component, I think we're lesser as human beings, right? And so I think it's a bigger issue, and I completely agree. It's a horrifying thought that all these people are not going to be able to do anything, and it's already showing up, right? When being an influencer is a bigger goal than being a mechanic or being a plumber or being the most basic things and skills and trades that we need. That's not healthy, and it's not practical. A 20-year-old who's influencing people on products is a person who hasn't even lived yet, right? They haven't experienced anything. They haven't traveled. They haven't done all the things that we as human beings, I think, were built to do and internalize and grow and develop from. And so I think this is a hugely important thing. I think we need to prioritize our ability to create and explore ideas and find what we love. And I need to be able to go into a room and ask kids what they like to do and have them all say something other than gaming, right?
Yes.
And I love gaming, and I have friends who are really good gamers and who run gaming companies and things. It's fun to be able to do that, but that can't be the only thing you know how to do.
And I think that it's how we have evolved in the past, say, 15 years with social media and this new marketplace that has been created. But it's also up to us to become the choice architect.
Right.
Richard Thaler has this notion in his book Nudge where he talks about choice architects and how we can strategically create, build, make things that are going to infuse that sense of purpose and direction and moral and virtue into our youth.
Right.
Because now we're realizing that if we don't take an active role in doing that, then who's going to do it for us?
Right. You have a future population that's lethargic and apathetic, and that's not good for them or for us, right? So yeah, I think that's a really important part to continue to prioritize.
Right. And that's what you're also trying to do is connect the dots in a holistic way, in an ever-encompassing way.
Right.
Would you say that the catalyst for you and Steve to actively solve that problem and to a greater or lesser degree make it your life's mission, did that happen when you were exposed to your son's and Chris's, hobby that sort of push you out there, or do you think it would come naturally?
I think we were going to do it anyway. I think all three of our children have very diverse interests, and they were always exploring, like everything they wanted to explore, we found a way to help them explore. My oldest got interested in taxidermy when she was like 8 or something, and it's like, cool, don't know anything about that. We checked out the only 2 books that the library had on taxidermy when she was 8, and we ended up going onto the early internet and finding, looking for women and taxidermy, and believe it or not, search engines were better. Then there was less to search, but still. And we found the head of the Wisconsin, I think it was the Wisconsin history museum. I'll probably get that wrong, but I'll have to go back one day and find out. And we connected with this woman. I said, I have an 9-year-old daughter who's interested in taxidermy. Can you help out? The woman shipped her a box of taxidermy magazines. We didn't even know they existed. And they communicated for several years. And that idea that your kid has an interest in something as esoteric as taxidermy, right? But all right, let's give you that. Let's give you all the information you can about that. And she did taxidermy for a few years, and that she was done with it. Yeah. And then my other daughter was interested in everything. Like she was everything from rock climbing to, she became a park ranger, and then eventually a media, running her own environmental media company, actually.
Wow.
But they were all over the place, and all the things like horseback riding, piano, just all these different things. And that's great. That's what we want. And so I think we probably would have gotten there, right? Because I was always looking for the next expert who could help with the thing I didn't know. Right. I never wanted to pretend to our kids that we knew everything, right? I wanted them to know, how do you find the information you need to learn the things you want to learn? And that's something we all need to know. And that takes us even deeper into the internet issues, where when we're searching online, how do we know what we're getting is true and good and right and vetted and accurate, right? Yeah. And so I think we love experimenting. I just learned how to do terrariums. I'm now on a terrarium kick. I am making terrariums because they looked interesting, and so I did it. And now I know how to make terrariums. So yeah, I think that abiding curiosity is what we need as a nation, to look at things bigger than ourselves. And it's exciting and it's interesting, and I think we've had fun making this, creating it, and so I think we would have gotten there one way or the other.
I love it. I love your passion to curiosity and your relentless pursuit of problem solving. Because sometimes a lot of people, they just stay with that problem that they don't know how to solve. Yeah. And you don't realize that most things that we get to do and accomplish is just a list of things and tasks that we gotta get done, and it's a process.
Right. Yeah.
This podcast is produced with full refurbished technology, secondhand technology, bringing it back to life. What is something that you are currently working on and trying to, with all of your experience and what you know that works and what you've realized that perhaps doesn't work as well, what are those programs, activities, focus areas that you're working on for the near future?
A couple things. At AmRock specifically, there's always been a high demand for elementary STEM, for people bringing in really young children, and what you have here for like my 8-year-old or my 6-year-old. And because we're largely volunteer run, we have 4.5 paid staff. Every program we have has a champion, somebody who takes it. So, Miss Liz runs with the sewing, and Clinton does the drones, and we have the coaches and the mentors who help out with the robotics. And we don't have anybody. We tried elementary robotics before, but you need more people if you're working with elementary school students. And so we actually were approached recently by a high school student who's dual enrolled at USF, overachiever, absolutely fabulous young man, and he developed an elementary STEM club program for us. And so he's done 2. He's a senior. We're not going to have him really long, but we now know that there's support and interest in this. So now we're working to develop an elementary elementary age STEM club that meets like once a month. And we're working with our other high school students to keep it running. So that's one we're developing out, just so we have some more support there, and hopefully we'll get more parent support, and then we can build up a bigger program. And then the other one is the automotive program. Pam Oakes is on our board, and she is an automotive standards expert. And we've tried a few different programs with her, but she can teach and will teach absolutely anything from HVAC to fleet management. And so we're implementing, starting next year, we're going to roll it out as a pilot to do a 4-session automotive technician program. And so we'll be doing that next year. And on a larger scale, of course, is our our goal to try to find a new home for Amrock in partnership with other great partners, because the mall is probably not going to be a sustainable space for us for long.
University
we
Mall, where
loved
you
it.
are
Yeah,
right now.
yeah. We moved into the mall because we thought, what more brilliant idea? We had great support at the time to put something like this in here where people can see it when they're walking through a shopping center.
Right.
They look in the windows and see people being creative. That's inspiring, because if we put it where people can't see it, where's the value? And so that worked well for the first couple years, even getting through COVID. But now we've outgrown the space. There's a lot of construction going on. It's not ideal. It's harder for people to get into the space. And so for the last year or so, we've been working with several partners to look at creating an opportunity center, where several nonprofits go in together. And now we have more than exponentially expanded the impact we can have together that we could each have alone. So that's what I'm really excited about.
I think there are massive opportunities. Yeah. I am choosing to see the opportunities to create this ecosystem that we feel it should be there, as as a catalyst for conversations to happen, for people to realize. I think there's one sort of common theme in what we've experienced, and is that most people are good. Yeah. Most people are trying to do the right thing. Most people can conceptualize what the right thing is, but bringing it down to this is your next step, this is specifically what needs to change, and finding the person that has the decision power to make that change. Right. It's the hardest part.
Yeah. How do you know where to go, right?
Exactly.
When we started the robotics team, and I needed an engineer, I just cold called. I went through, literally, I think we still had phone books. So we were looking at maybe a rudimentary Google Maps, and I looked for mechanical and engineering companies all over the place, and I would call people up and say, hey, I've got these kids, and they're like, nope, can't help you. One guy said, I'm curious, I'd like to know more. And I brought the kids out to St. Petersburg. It was Paul Mark, and he passed away last year. And this was 18 years ago. And he's like, yeah, bring them by. I'd like to talk to them. And that moment where the students met him, and you walked in, and he had this beautiful shop, little personal mechanical engineering shop, and the door to the shop said, nobody gets to see the wizard, ain't no way, ain't no how. The kids were like, ooh, and he pushed open the door, and there's this beautiful shop in there, and it's got soft jazz playing, and they had never seen anything like this. And Paul remained a mentor for the team for probably 12 years. And we would go out to see him all the time, and he'd talk to them about engineering, the elegance of engineering. Absolutely marvelous. But the first time we were there, one of the students on the robotics team, as we were leaving, said that was the very first time he had ever seen an adult who loved what they did. And it's like, wow. Like, that to me was a transformative statement on many levels, because what we're doing is showing people possibilities. So this kid was 18, and he had never met an adult, including in his own family apparently, who really loved what they did. It was more than work to them.
Wow.
It was art,
Wow.
And so I think that, being able to find the people in our lives who can help, who can guide, who can lead, and who are willing to share what they know is super important and powerful. And for any of those people who are approached all the time and said, hey, you should volunteer, you should mentor, we could really use your help. Money is great. Bodies in the room is just as important. And you don't know how important, and you won't always know how important until you hear a story down the road, or somebody comes up, and you may never know, right, how you've impacted somebody. So yeah,
mentorship, right?
Yeah.
I think it's so key. I once read or saw, I can't remember, but it was something along the lines of the difference between people who are successful and achieve what they set up to achieve versus the people that don't. A lot of the times is the expectation that you have when you begin that journey, that whatever it is that you're visualizing you can accomplish, versus the expectation of somebody whose life has shown that person that the things that you dream of cannot materialize. you already start that journey with the mindset of this is too hard, this is too complicated, nobody has done it, why me?
Right.
Versus the other person that more often than not comes from a better environment, an environment where there's more access, an environment where they have seen people succeed.
Right.
They start the journey with the expectation that that's going to happen.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's important. And when we work with the kids, some point in the season with the robotics kids, I always tell them there's a huge difference between winning and succeeding, right? So you may not win the competition because there's 60 other robots there, and a lot of the judging's subjective, and things happen, and things fail. But if you have built something that is what you were aiming for, and it's a beautiful thing, and you've accomplished this with your team, you're successful. And people need to understand the difference between winning and succeeding. I think it's an important aspect, and I think you're right. You have to experience what success and know what success looks like, and know that there are many ways up the mountain. Right, that there's not just one way. We'll have kids come in and go, I don't know how to solder, or I can't solder. It's like, well, is it that you can't, or you just don't know how yet? Right. And so we try to change that language up about things like maybe you won't like soldering. That's okay, but you still can, right? So I think that's extraordinarily important.
For sure.
Distinction,
Oh, 100, and leading by example and
Right.
representation and creating that right environment as well. Terri, what's a good message that you could give the folks that are listening based on your experience of really making ideas happen? And what's that message to wrap up that you would like them to leave with?
It's a good question. I have lots of messages. I think the most fundamental message, though, is be there for each other, right? Be curious, live in awe, put the phone down and look up. Look at each other, right? I don't think we look at each other enough. And I think that's a critical part of connecting with each other. And we need to be present for one another. And we need to be able to share what we love and why we love it. And be less concerned about, NDAs, and more concerned about everybody, all of us succeeding together. Right, we all need to succeed together, or none of us will succeed at all. And I think that's the biggest take home for me, is that we need each other.
And what would be your personal definition of success?
Right now, I could live on whether AMROC continues or not, right?
Yeah.
I have my terrariums. I have a lot of things I like to do. I'm getting older. I've got grandkids now. So I will go on regardless. But to me, I would love to see AMROC continue into perpetuity without me. Right, and without Steve, and that we can walk away, and the board can rotate, and we get new board members, and we get new executive directors, right? We get new people there, but it continues on as a beloved place in the community where people know that they are safe, they have agency, they can develop skills, and they can develop a future and build what they want for themselves and for their families and for their communities.
I love it. Well, so it's our responsibility also to ensure that happens. Terri, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for spending some time with us. If you like this comment, if you like what we talked about, please hit the like button, share, comment, save our podcast, help us gain some momentum, and ensure that all of these stories are told. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. Bye.